Briefing on the situation in the ATO zone, Ministry of Defense of Ukraine spokesman on ATO-related issues, Colonel Oleksandr Motuzyanyk. Welcome on stage. Good afternoon, everyone. Now the information about the main events that happened yesterday in the ATO zone. The Lugansk sector. Yesterday, military action started right afternoon. The militants, throughout the night until 8 in the morning, opened fire at Krymske, and 3 times they used mortars of 82 and 120 millimeter of caliber. The fire at this town was delivered by the enemy from 5 different directions, and throughout the day along the contact line it was calm, but after 6 p.m. the occupants restarted fire and fired at Lobacheva, Novozvanivka and Troitska, and they used small arms, and in the course of shelling Novozvanivka they used mortar fire. On the whole, during the last 24 hours in the Lugansk sector there were 13 shellings delivered by the enemy, including 5 with the use of mortars. The Donetsk sector, yesterday Russian occupation forces increased the number of intensity of shelling with the use of heavy weapons. This happened mainly in Kamenka, Avdiivka, Shakhta-Butivka position, part of front line. Here, enemy provocations started after 3 a.m. and lasted throughout the day, with interruptions until 11 p.m. Russian occupation forces used 122 mm artillery, heavy mortars of different caliber, and also delivered fire with the use of tanks. The number of shells launched by the enemy at the positions of the armed forces of Ukraine reached 170. And once again, residential quarters of southern part of Avdiivka came under militants' fire. 3 houses were damaged. At night, 1 armed provocation was recorded in Verkhnyatoretsk and Travneva that was done with the use of mortars, and also the occupants shelled our rear region with the use of 122 mm artillery in the region of Kadema town, that is 5 kilometers away from the line of contact. On the whole, during the last 24 hours in the Donetsk sector, there were 18 enemy shellings, including 14 with the use of heavy weapons. The Mariupol sector. Yesterday, military actions were mainly in Pavlopil, Shirokine, part of front line, in Mariinsky region, and in the northern part of Volnovasky region. 3 mortar shellings were delivered in Pavlopil. Also, enemy used mortars twice at Krasnogorivka, and several mines launched by Russian occupation forces hit local school. Fortunately, there were no teachers or children there. On the whole, during the last 24 hours, in the Mariupol sector, there were 21 enemy armed provocations, including 5 with the use of heavy weapons. During the last 24 hours, in the result of the military actions, fortunately, no Ukrainian serviceman was killed, but 5 servicemen were wounded. Now, dear friends, is the information about training of Ukrainian armed forces. In Zaporizhsky National Technical University, they hold 1 month training for the artillerymen of the National Guard. This is done under the command of reserve officers of artillery detachments of the armed forces of Ukraine. They teach how to use mortars, anti-tank cannons, howitzer D-30, also how to use azimuth compasses and calculate the coordinates, and how to load the arms and how to deliver fire for effect. And there was a competition for tankmen in Donetsk territory unit, and they used T-64, T-72 and T-80 tanks, and they completed different tasks, and prize winners will participate in another contest, and in order to establish best tank crews of the armed forces. And at the same time, in Kramatorsk, police officers had 2-day training to provide first psychological and paramedic help. They were taught how to respond in the conflict zone to the catastrophic situations, and how to be the most efficient while on duty. There were 2 parts of training: first medical help and then psychological help. And 10 National Guardsmen in Pokrovsk donated their blood to the wounded servicemen. And we should say that servicemen regularly do this honorable action. They do it actually each month. Do you have questions? No, thank you. Next briefing about 80